Hello and welcome to the Knit Girls. This is episode 633. I'm Laura, also known as Lala.
I am Leslie, also known as You Don't Call Me Les.
Sorry about it.
That's why we haven't recorded in 2 weeks.
I have an upper respiratory infection, but I took antibiotics.
Yeah.
So I took my last one today. I did the full course.
And this is
So
110% better than she sounded
yes.
a week ago. So.
Hopefully, I'm like at 75%, I would say. There was a point where I was like at 15%, so felt like razor blades were in my throat and lungs. But we're getting there. Yay, I have a follow-up on Wednesday. Lots of knitting time in doctor's offices. But just I'm back on my sock kick because, yeah, it's been a year of socks. I guess I could go first. I could continue with that statement.
I mean, that's allowed. Go for it.
Okay. So I am working on a pair of hand-spun socks. They are out of hip strings fiber that I spun. It is her 50% Southdown wool, 25% Dorset wool, and 25% bio-nylon. Bio-nylon degrades when it is in like landfill type conditions within 3 to 4 years, I believe. So these are non-superwash socks. So everything in here should degrade naturally, and there's less chemicals involved. So I am trying out some new things, and this is an opposing ply sock yarn. So when you spin your singles, typically you spin clockwise, and then, which is Z, and then you ply counterclockwise. That's still clockwise. Counterclockwise, which is S.
And by that she means the direction the wheel is turning.
Turning. Well, the flyer is turning specifically. Because I use an e-wheel, so there's no real wheel to it. On this, 2 of the plies were spun clockwise, 1 ply was spun counterclockwise, and then they were all plied together counterclockwise. So what that does is it creates a super elastic yarn, because 1 ply is super over twisted, and all that twist makes it really, really elastic. It's a great way of spinning sock yarn that you want to, or any object that you really want to have elasticity, especially with negative ease. But it's also great for yarns that might have like long wools that are not known for being super elasticity. For having a lot of elasticity and adding that elasticity through twist. So that is what I am currently working on. I just got it to the heel. I'm using Wendy Johnson's Toe Up. Because this is a very dark blue in real life, I'm using a stitch marker so I don't have to guess which side I'm increasing on. I can just know. And then I also knit a sock. I need to knit the second one of these, but you know, whatever. New shiny thing. So this is that same blend, but when it was dyed, it had more repetition of color. So this is basically how the braid looked, because I chain plied this, which is essentially just crocheting it back on itself. So you spin 1 single and then you crochet it back on itself the opposite direction, and it creates basically a self-striping yarn or gradient yarn, depending on how the
color stays together.
The color appeared. The downside of this is if you were not consistent in your spinning, then those inconsistencies really showed, because you're plying them back on each other. There's not 2 other plies to hide it in.
So if you had like a thick section and you ply it back on itself, that thick section is going to stick out.
Yep. So, or skinny in this case.
Right.
So those are the 2 things that I am working on. I'm going to finish this sock and then cast on their partners. And then that's it for me.
And those are both knit on zeros?
Yep, they're both knit on zeros. Do you want to feel my zero knitting?
That makes me so sad for you. Wow. I wouldn't even be able to stretch mine.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty dense. for you. This is pretty dense for you.
I feel like the wool composition that so down breeds, which Southdown is a down breed, a lot of people use that in sock yarns because it doesn't felt naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that also kind of plumps it up more than like merino, which is a super short staple fiber. But yeah, these were knit on size zeros, and then I have a finished pair of socks to show in finished objects that was also knit on size zeros. I did just buy some double zeros again because there will come a time pretty soon, I think, that I will be going down to double zeros, and these are 56 stitches on zeros. So
I mean, that makes me genuinely sad for you. Okay, so I'm working on a couple things. I'm close to, sorry, that's my computer making weird noises. I'm close to being done, well, with the knitting.
You're so close to being done.
Of this, but there's a lot of there's not a lot of finishing. There's a crap ton of ends to weave in. So this is the Halfway Pullover by Jamie Hoffman. This is knit out of hip strings.
There's a lot of hip strings on this show today.
Yeah, there's a lot of hip strings.
There's also a knitting needle very close to my face. It was when you came back.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah, so the same fingering color is held throughout, and that's Dionysus.
That like maroon.
Yeah, sort of wine red.
Yeah.
And then down here it's held with this black lace, which is lead, and then up here it's held with that sort of variegated red and silver, which is strawberry shortcake. So I finished one sleeve. I'm making it 3/4 because I just don't wear a lot of long sleeve full sweaters. Yeah, I layer because I constantly get hot. So I'm on the cuff of the second one. I'm using my Hiya shorties with the short little cable. I like these a lot for sleeves because I don't have to constantly I would otherwise magic loop. I don't use DPNs a lot just because I always end up pulling out the wrong needle because I'm not usually looking at my knitting. If I used them more, I would get into the habit of doing it right, but I don't use them a lot. So, but yeah, so I've got another. I don't know.
Well, the circumference of this is like 10 inches around, so you don't need. If it was a smaller circumference, you would have to probably go down.
Yeah, so I've got another inch maybe of ribbing, and I use the Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy bind off for the bind off of the cuff. And then I've got a whole butt ton of ends to weave in, and I've got to, the edge of the neckband is rolling, and in the instructions it tells you can either pick up and bind off a row immediately, or you can use a crochet hook. I'm probably going to use a crochet hook because I want the neckline to come in a little bit. So I'll use a crochet hook and just mess with tension. It's a lot easier if I don't like it or it's too tight or too loose. I can rip it out with crochet a lot faster.
Yeah.
So that is my dog outside. Well, one of my dogs. This is the other one. Well, one of the other ones. Buffy's my old girl.
Those little puppies are so mean.
She's an old pit bull that we rescued when we were in New Jersey, and she loves Laura and us and my little sister, and that's about it. That's the only people that she will come out of her hiding spots for.
She hides from everyone else.
And then the ones outside are the hyper ones who are not allowed in here when we record because disaster would follow.
Yes.
So
one of the little ones a couple times ago when we recorded took one of my bobbins and was running around with it.
It was funny. He didn't hurt it.
No.
He was just carrying it, but I mean, left alone with it, he would.
Yeah.
Because there's been probably half a dozen skeins of yarn that he has carried around and then just...
Did that stop? Did you figure out where they were coming from?
I think I must have just gotten all of them out of his reach. And also when he's in here, I try to make sure he's got something to chew on to keep him busy.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I'm working on is...
something approved to chew on.
Yeah. A V-neck worsted, or it's not V-neck, it's a worsted boxy. And this is by Joji Locatelli. Joji has sort of pioneered the modern boxy sweater, and this is not for me. This is for a friend of mine. And I realized when I got to the point where I was measuring for under the arm to see when I was ready to split for the front and the back, and I was counting my stitches, which I should have done after cast on, and I didn't. And I was 30 stitches short, which ended up being about 8 inches.
Wow.
And I was really sad because I'd already knit 18 inches at that point. And you might be asking yourself, why didn't you just count the stitches after you cast on? And I thought I did. Apparently I did not count them well. So what I did is I put the sweater on waist yarn.
So the boxy is very oversized.
It's
like usually
oversized.
10 to 12 inches oversized to begin with.
Yeah. So what I did was I took it off the needles and I put it on some waist yarn, and I blocked it. I soaked it, and then I hung it over a line right down the middle so that the weight of the sides would pull it wider, because I can always add length, right? But I can't add width in an easy way. So I blocked it to see how, without, like, I didn't add weights or anything, I just let the natural weight of the sweater pull it down, and it brought it back to within the right measurements, within half an inch.
Oh.
So I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
So now the only thing I had to do was go back through and where all the numbers are for like splitting front and back and doing the shaping around the neckline, I had to do math and like figure out, okay, so here she's using 30% of the stitches to do this, so I had to, figure out what 30% of my stitch count would be. And
there wasn't a size to add your stitch count.
The smallest size had 30 more stitches than I.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
Because the way that
that's not something that usually happens in our lives. We're never the smallest size.
So I'm happy I mean, it's still going to be big on her because she's much smaller than I am. But she doesn't like things to cling in any way, so I wanted to just make sure it was nice and oversized.
So did you lose a lot of the length?
Actually, no, I didn't lose any length. It stayed exactly the same length.
Huh.
So, which makes sense, because if I had hung it from like the chest and let it weigh down, it would have grown a lot in length. And I might have lost some in width. I don't know. But like, I measured it before and I measured it after.
And it is a cotton wool blend.
So, it's your PSA to count your stitches and then count them again.
And also block your swatches.
Yeah, and I did block my swatch, but my swatch was this big. Like, it acts a lot different than a big swatch. So anyway, it's 18 inches. I decided I'm going to go to 19 inches before I should probably put a stitch marker so I know where that 18 inches is. Right there. So I've got maybe 4 or 5 more rows before I'll split for the front and the back. This is out of Green Mountain Spinnery's Cotton Comfort DK. I'm really loving the yarn. It's very nice to work with. It's not hard on your hands like 100% cotton would be. And it's not super hot. Like, I can see myself knitting myself a garment out of this yarn. So I'm really happy with it.
I bought that yarn for a Vera Valimaki short-sleeved sweater.
So this is living in an old Chicken Boots bag.
Aww.
I do love Chicken Boots.
They sell their bags now at Jimmy Bean's.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
She sold the patterns and stuff to Jimmy Bean's.
So yeah, that's living in that bag, and my other sweater is living in my mushroom booty bag from Fat Squirrel.
Very cool.
That's what I'm working on.
I have a finished object.
Cool.
I finished right before Halloween, the 29th or the 30th. I finished my Halloween socks, and I wore them with a pumpkin onesie to work on Halloween. So these are Woolens and Nosh Costume Party. They've been washed after wearing. It is her Targy base. They were knit unsized zeros. They are a smidge large, but they worked fine. So, yay!
How was wearing a onesie to work? How did that?
It was fine. It was not fine when I came. So I never have time to pee at work, but when I came home, there was accidental onesie in the toilets
Yeah.
because I wasn't like the sleeve dipped in
Right.
when I was getting unonesied. So that was fun, but luckily that happened at home. And I wore it with like leggings and a tank top underneath because it was quite warm, but that was back when we were in like the 30s at night.
Yeah.
Before we just got another heat spell where we were in the 80s, and then this week it's supposed to be 70s. So I would like real fall now, please.
It's yo-yoing all over the place.
It is. And I'm sure at other people's places too. So that one pair of socks is my only finished object in the last couple weeks.
I mean, you've been ill,
but
and you can't really make yourself be crafty when you're ill.
no, there were 3 days this past week where I did not get out of bed.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a ton of crafting that happened while I was sick. There was a lot of Disney Dreamlight Valley that happened while I was sick. That was about as much as
your brain will allow you to do.
Yeah, that with me being able to Google the answers to the quest was about as much as my brain would do. So,
well, I sort of have finished objects, but they're not really. So I just stuck them in this section. So I've been messing around with those hexy pin looms.
Yeah.
So I've just made some more, and I figured I'd show them.
Did you get your new one?
I did.
Cool.
I got 2 new ones. So I got one that's made for fingering weight and one that's made for worsted weight. So that way I can basically make them with, and they come out to the same size. So
perfect.
You can work them together. So yeah, it's nice because I'm going through some old bags of like scraps, and I get to use the yarn again, which is nice. So I don't remember what this is. It was a Knit Spin Farm colorway. So was this. I like how like it comes out plaid looking with the self striping. This is an old Perfect Day yarns.
Oh.
I cannot remember what the colorway was, but I made Jaywalkers out of the yarn.
Oh gosh, that's got to be from like 2008.
I mean, it was old. This is some Jill Draper something in a DK weight. So, and I made it on the worsted, so it's got kind of some space in there. This is some Numma Numma.
Oh wow.
Blackberry Jam or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is from like 2007 to 10, somewhere in there. This is from...
I'm enjoying revisiting these dyers with you.
So we went to a yarn shop that was like a house, and it had like a chicken coop outside.
Yeah, it was in the...
It was very posh, like...
Yeah, it was in, when we went on our trip to visit the Loopy U.
Oh, in Colorado?
Yeah, it's in, what's that town that Lynn lives in?
Fort Collins?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there was upstairs, there was some self-striping, and there was a dyer who did self-striping in a ball, like Lollipop does. And I don't remember what the dyer's name was, but... And then this...
It's one of the Canadian dyers.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. Anyway.
This was some... I don't remember. And then I held 2 together for this on the worsted one. And this kind of looks like...
it's giving me 80s vibes.
The out-of-service bars that would come on your television. You know, that's sort of what that makes me think of. But yeah, so I got 8 of those done this week, which is
nice.
A lot, but it's something. And then I've also been working on this other thing. So my friend Jessie lives in Washington. Is it Washington or Oregon? I want to say Washington.
I think Washington.
And she is brilliant at finding deals, like unbelievable deals on anything fiber crafty, because well, that's what she's into. I'm sure she could find deals on other stuff, but like there's a
she got a whole box of headphones sent to my school for free.
That's amazing.
Yeah. For testing and stuff. Yep.
Well, she's just, I don't know how, but she does. She finds the greatest deals, and there's a running joke in this friend group we have that's like, she could convince anybody, you know, to do anything for like a half a shekel and a leftover turkey sandwich or something. She's just great at that stuff. So she, like a year or more ago, she was at her local Goodwill, and she found this kit for like $4, and asked me if I wanted it, and I was like, sure. So it's this like
Oh, look at the pigs.
applique wall hanging quilt kit, and I've never done applique before, but like it's sewing essentially, so how hard can it be? And it's not like it's super hard, but it's so,
Is it tedious?
yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt because you've got to cut all these shapes out and then you have to sew them to the fabric, but you have to do it by folding the fabric under like a 1/16 of an inch, and you can only do that like half an inch at a time,
Okay.
or you warp the fabric. Oh, it's a pain in the butt, but like,
But for a wall hanging, it's doable.
yeah, I wouldn't.
For a whole
I don't know that I
quilt.
would do it like hand appliquing. You can applique by machine, and you'll just have like, depending on how you do it, you can enclose the edge in like the decorative seam or whatever, or you can expose the edge. So anyway, this is
Aww.
where I'm at on it. I finished
Look at the little
pigs,
tail.
and I'm working on the leaves for the corn stalk now.
Oh my goodness, those tails are everything.
So yeah, they're made out of braided fabric, which is cool. So it came with like everything that you needed, even the batting. So
Fun.
I'm working on this like during calls and stuff when I have time. But it requires you use like milliners. Like the needle is so thin you can barely see it. So yeah, but it's fun. I mean, I'm learning a new skill. I'm trying something different. So I don't know that I would ever do like a full quilt with any sort of hand applique, but it's fun to be able to do it and say that I did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's basically all I've got this week. Do you have any spinning?
I do have some spinning. So I plied this morning. So I did a regular 3-ply of the same fiber from Hip Strings in a different color.
I like that color.
Yeah, so I can't remember what it is. The tag is somewhere in my house. I couldn't find it before I came. But yeah, so this is just a plain 3-ply where all 3 plies are spun the same direction and then plied the opposite direction. And then, excuse me,
Come here.
the last, I know, those puppies outside are very sad. The last of it is this, and it's the Advanced Marriage Counseling colorway, and I'm going to do this as a chain ply. Or not chain ply, a cable ply, a 4-cable ply.
Okay.
So it'll be 2-ply back on itself, going the opposite direction, so counterclockwise, and then ply back on itself again, going clockwise. I have no idea where that came from.
I don't know what this used to go to, but
someone got it.
yeah.
So that'll happen, and I'm gonna do that by weight. I think like I'll do the 2-ply all the way through, and then you add a little bit of extra twist. So as I'm running it through again, I will weigh it and then cut it and put it on 2 separate bobbins. Do the final ply. That's the plan today. Some people do like a plying ball, like that. They go from the inside and the outside of a ball. That can add extra twist in one direction, and it's also just complicated to keep up with. My manual dexterity this week is not the best, so I'm gonna try it using a scale instead.
Yeah, you should go with whatever process
Yeah.
works for you.
I am going to. Thank you for giving me that encouragement. But yeah, so then I'm taking a break from hand spun socks for a while because I'll have Christmas knitting to do.
What is your Christmas knitting?
It's 4 things. So 3 pairs of socks, because Beck's are already done. So 1 for my brother-in-law, 1 for my mom, 1 for my dad. Although I might do mittens this year for mom and dad. I haven't decided. Just maybe just switch it up.
Yeah.
And then something for my grandmother. So, yep. I'll probably do some mitts for her, because she likes mitts when she gardens. So, yep. And then I will have free time for a while. I am going to, one of my rewards for finishing my first sock today was we are doing a striped sweater knit along with Indigo Dragonfly, That started November 1st. There's information in our Discord. It's 15% any qualifying pattern with the code KNITMORE15, which is linked in our show notes, which you can find on the TheKnitGirlls with 3Ls.com. And it runs through the end of February, so there's lots of time. But I pulled out some yarn and I pulled out some fiber that I think will go with the yarn, and so I peeled off like one like pinky length along the side of the braid, so I got the full repetition, and I sampled. So I had the singles done of that sample, so that I can swatch with that and the yarn to make sure, the commercial yarn, to make sure they look good together. So that was my reward. And it's a merino silk fiber, so it's spinning nice and thin.
I need to pick the pattern that I'm going to make, but I haven't because I've been so focused on finishing this thing.
Yeah,
so.
well, you have 2 sweaters on the needles already. I think it's fair to finish what's on your needles before you start something new.
So as far as like reading, I haven't been doing a ton of reading. I've been starting books and not finishing them, like returning them, so I don't really have anything good to talk about this week for reading. I have been listening to a podcast that Malia recommended called Handsome, and it's sort of a comedy podcast. It's just 3 comedians talking, and it's Tig Notaro, who is a southern, well, she comes from Mississippi, comedian, Mae Martin, who I believe is...
They come from Canada.
Yeah. They were on the last season of Taskmaster, season 15. And they're a stand-up comedian. They're great. And Fortune Feimster, who is also hilarious.
And has been featured on RuPaul's Drag Race many a time.
Yeah. So every week they take a question. Somebody's recorded an audio question, so they listen to it and then they just respond and whatever. The most recent one was from Nina West.
Aww.
So,
the most recent one that you listened to.
Yes, because I'm listening to their back catalog. They started it this summer, so I've still got like a dozen to catch up on. So, but it's a good, like low stress. You don't really have to pay a lot of attention to it, but you still feel like you're in on the jokes. So
yeah,
it's a good one. What have you been reading and or listening to?
I've been watching a lot of hockey, because hockey season is underway, and that's 2.5 hours 3 times a week usually. I could tell I was really feeling bad because I was just sitting there watching hockey and not doing something else one night. The Penguins have won their last 4, but they had lost so many leading up to that. So I think they just hit 500, which is like even wins and losses. I listened to the Steelers game today because it wasn't broadcast here. And I've been rereading Alexis Hall. They came out with a new male romance, which kind of reminds me of While You Were Sleeping, that movie, where someone's kind of manipulating someone else using lack of memory in an accident as kind of like the qualifier. And so then I decided to reread a bunch of Alexis Hall books.
I've read some Alexis Hall male, and they've been good.
Yeah. They're adult, usually modern male romance, although they do have some historical as well, and some female as well too, I believe. But yep, that's been it for me. I've been just playing a lot of Disney Dreamlight Valley more than anything else, which is not a good use of my time.
I mean,
but
says who?
Yeah, well, me. But yep. That's it for me. We thank you everyone who sent books to my kids, by the way. They love them. They have been super excited anytime I bring a bag of books to school to see what's in it. So, and there's a video on my personal Instagram of as I'm unbagging a bunch of books, I'm going, let's go. I was so excited. So they're good kids. And y'all make their days when they get new books that arrive. But, yep. That's been about it for me. The sickness has been wearing me down a little bit.
Work has been crazy for me.
Yeah, your work's been
very much looking forward to it not being crazy.
Very chaotic.
I had to do a self-evaluation, and I wanted to just put on it, give me a raise.
I don't think that's what they were looking for.
It's not. It's definitely not. But yeah, I'm not the only one. My whole team is exhausted, so it's just.
You've been working a lot of like graveyard shifts too, which makes it hard for us to record because I get off of work at like 3:15, and Leslie is then starting a shift.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit difficult there as well. But hopefully things will calm down during the holidays. I feel like that will not happen, but
yeah, we'll see.
I feel like it will. One thing I forgot to talk about is I'm teaching at Maryland Sheep and Wool's Winterfest. And signups for that are coming up. I think they're November 18th. It is an online teaching platform. I'm teaching some spinning classes, but like our good friends, Sarah, who does gnomes, she's teaching.
Sarah Shira.
Yep. And then so many people are teaching. So many good people are teaching. Shayna Lines Designs is teaching. She's amazing. She's doing these little like knit baskets, and I really want to take her class, but it's at the same time as mine, so that won't happen. But I really want to take her class. So I want to take everyone's classes. I think Maggie Casey's also teaching. There's a lot of great people. So yeah, it'll be a good one. And it's a good way to, if you don't live near a festival or don't have the ability to go to a festival and take a class, these are online classes through a platform called Lesson Face. So definitely check out on Maryland Sheep and Wool's website. They have a category called Winterfest. Yeah, that's it for me.
We should have some news coming about SSK soon. We're working on teacher contracts. We'll have vendor applications up next week. And hopefully we will have the lottery up. We're waiting on some numbers from Scarrett Bennett, where we host the event. But we're hoping to have the lottery sign-ups open soon. We'll post that. Laura will talk about it on her Instagram. You can sign up at supersummerknittogether.com to get notifications.
It's being weird, though.
No, I fixed it.
Okay.
It was being weird, but I fixed it. But yeah, and we'll talk about it on the show. And you'll have, I want to say, a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that, to sign up. It's not a first come, first serve. It's a lottery system. Just because we're gratefully lucky enough to have more people that want to come than we have spaces to accommodate. So
usually.
Yeah, so anyhow, more information on that soon. And I think that's all I've got.
That's all I got.
All right, well, we will talk to you again soon. Until next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.